Good morning, everybody. My name is Pamina Bohrer, and I'm the Secretary General of the Italian South African Chamber of Trade and Industries. We are here this morning to discuss the impact of COVID-19 on the businesses in our country. And I've got the privilege to be here with Mr. Ian Fleming, who is the Director at Engage Business Turnaround, and Mr. Maurice or Maurizio Crespi, who is a Managing Partner at Schindlers Attorneys. We're very privileged to be able to interview them this morning on how businesses can and should react to this crisis. But let's start with some brief introductions at first. Ian, if you would like to introduce yourself to the audience.
My name is Ian Fleming. I'm the Managing Director of Engage Business Turnaround. We're a multidisciplinary business rescue and turnaround outfit that assists businesses and stakeholders in distressed business.
Maurizio.
Yes, I'm Managing Partner of Schindlers Attorneys. I'm a litigation attorney. In my team, I have 20 attorneys, and we do business rescue on a daily basis. This is our field.
Thank you. So we've seen COVID-19 hit South Africa with a bit of a delay with respect to Italy, which is certainly a country that we can and should learn from. Tell us what you think the impact will be on our local businesses, whether they are foreign-owned or multinationals or SMEs. What do you think is going to happen in the next few months?
Okay, well, in terms of Section 128 of the Companies Act, a business is in financial distress when there's a reasonable likelihood that the business will not be able to meet its liabilities within the ensuing 6 months. So interestingly, I think most 99% of businesses fall within that category. So the impact on businesses is that conceivably every business, in fact, has to put, or the directors would have to put business rescue to the vote. So the impact is huge, in the sense that I think every single business is now is in financial distress and now needs to take action.
Yes, and if I can just add to that, I think every single business is sitting there just trying to work out when they're going to run out of money. How long is Corona going to last for? Is there going to be a cure? Is there going to be a vaccine? Is the lockdown period in South Africa going to work? What if it doesn't work? Everybody's sitting there wondering how they're going to service their landlord costs, their rentals and so on. Everybody's wondering how they're going to pay their staff and other creditors and long-term debt commitments. So it's going to affect every single business. There's no doubt whatsoever.
And as you quite rightly stated, it's the uncertainty that makes it very difficult for businesses to plan from a financial point of view. So I believe you've put together an initiative, which is a pro bono initiative that can really be of value to businesses at this particularly difficult time. Can you tell us about the Cobra Initiative and how it works?
Sure. So what happened was a week ago when the president made the announcement, it became clear that there'd be a tsunami of distressed businesses. And we decided that we got to create something where they can turn for assistance. So Ian is an expert in business turnaround. I'm an expert in business rescue law, and the IQ Business Group they're experts and they're consultants to businesses. So we decided to come together to forge this partnership, which has turned out to be the biggest pro bono initiative in South Africa's history, I think. And the idea is to have an ecosystem where businesses can come into the ecosystem, the Cobra ecosystem, have them liaise with consultants, mediators, and business rescue practitioners. The idea is to keep businesses out of business rescue, to see whether that's possible by negotiating a compromise with creditors. But if it's not possible, then on a pro bono basis at no charge, we'll put the businesses into business rescue. And if that business has to be converted into a liquidation, if it doesn't work, then that process is a high court application and normally costs in the region of 30,000 rands. Schindlers Attorneys will be handling that on a pro bono basis for any business out there to assist. Reason being, who wants to pay 30,000 rands at that point in time? You've just lost your business, so let us take care of that.
Ian, do you want to add to that?
I've got nothing to add to that, except the fact that, yes, it's we have combined our resources and we are there to help. That's really what this is all about. And we feel we are the best combination of businesses, the best collaboration that has been put together, combining our skills and expertise to be able to help the South African business environment at large during this process.
And when we say we're experts, we were Schindlers, were parties. We acted for the parties in the very first Supreme Court of Appeal business rescue case almost 10 years ago. So we've been at it for some time. And now this collaboration with Agility, Schindlers, and Engaged, with the combined expertise, we certainly can help businesses through this. And we already have, in fact. We've been inundated with calls.
So tell us a little bit more about how the process of business rescue works, and also what are the alternatives, because it seems like such a scary concept for a company to say, I'm going to potentially give up control and hand over to a business rescue practitioner. What are the implications, and when should people or businesses take this decision, and when is it still possible to wait? What are the pros and cons?
Let me jump in there with a process.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so do you want to kick off? Go for it.
Okay, sorry. Let me jump in with the process. The process of, and yes, sorry, Pam, let me just say it is a very scary process to hand over control of the business, especially if it's a business that you've built up over time, that you take a huge amount of pride in, and so on. And, to hand over control to a business rescue practitioner is a very scary prospect. I'll go through alternatives shortly, but having said that, that's why it is such an important thing to choose the correct business rescue. It has to be somebody you can work with. We've got our collaboration has got a proven track record of being able to work with the board of directors. We don't come in there and kick the CEO out of his seat. That would make for a disastrous business rescue. Work with with the board of the company, and we kind of help them fill the holes where they might be lacking a little bit, and we take them through the process. That's what our experience is. So, very important to find the right business rescue practitioner. The process is basically, it's a very simple process to put a company into business rescue, and the 2008 Companies Act has made it very simple to do so. It's simply a set of resolutions and a sworn affidavit and a couple of forms that need to be filled in, which can be done very quickly, and we would send it to the CIPC for you. The moment we have sent it to CIPC, your company is in business rescue, and it is protected from legal action against creditors, including liquidation applications. 5 days after putting a company into business rescue, a business rescue practitioner has to be appointed, and all creditors of the company need to be notified of the fact that the company is in business rescue. We will, of course, assist you with that as well. And then quickly jumping ahead, 10 days after being appointed, the company has to hold what we call a Section 147 meeting. That's where the business rescue practitioner provides his opinion as to whether there's a reasonable prospect of saving that company, either of returning it to a solvent going concern, or in the worst case scenario of giving creditors a better return than they would get in a liquidation scenario. So that's 10 days after the business rescue practitioner has been appointed, and then 25 days after the business rescue practitioner has been appointed, he needs to publish a business rescue plan, which basically sets out how the company is going to be rescued, including financial projections and so on, including breakdowns of creditors, creditor categories, listing all the assets that are in the company, etc.
So what about the potential damage that this could potentially cause? If you put yourself into the shoes of somebody who is still wanting to attract new business and clients, and you have to publish a business rescue plan, what is the impact of that, and when is it more opportune to wait? Because obviously business rescue provides some sort of protection, so one has to outweigh the benefits of the protection versus potentially the negative impact on the reputation.
Well, the nice thing about, and there's very few nice things about this, COVID virus, but for companies that have been sitting on the edge trying to decide whether they should go into business rescue or not, now they really don't have an option. Now they really kind of have to go into business rescue. And yes, and the COVID virus is certainly a very good reason for as Maurice said, almost 99% of companies to go into business rescue. And because it's a catastrophe of enormous proportions, and nobody could, there certainly is a stigma attached to going into business rescue. People don't want to admit that they're in financial distress, but and now they certainly have a very good reason to go into business rescue. So yes.
COVID-19 is an opportunity to go into business rescue without the stigma.
Well, if you're looking at a silver lining, companies that are bordering on the verge of distress, that is it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I just want to add to the question of timing, because I think it's quite important. Strictly speaking, in terms of the Act, you actually have to put business rescue to the vote as soon as you believe that you're financially distressed. Then what you can do is the board resolution can be, well, we're not putting it into business rescue because we intend waiting. Why are we waiting? Well, we've decided to form part of the Cobra ecosystem, and they're going to try and sort things out. That's why we're not going to business rescue. So that's the idea of the Cobra ecosystem, is to actually be able to delay. Otherwise, what other reason are you going to give?
Yes, absolutely. And let me continue from that. Yes, so business rescue is not the first option. As Maurice explained correctly earlier, the first option is to put it into the Cobra ecosystem and for us to negotiate arrangements with creditors. Because then we will decide if there's a creditor who we can't find an agreement with, the creditor is being particularly aggressive and so on, then we can consider putting it into business rescue. There are other alternatives. Pam, you asked for the other alternatives. The other one is a Section 155 compromise, which can be undertaken. That's almost like a business rescue, except it doesn't have the protection of business rescue. That's quite a nice one where you don't have belligerent creditors or aggressive creditors, because the disadvantage of a Section 155 compromise is that while you are busy putting the plan together, a creditor can come and try to liquidate the company. So if your creditors are all fairly friendly, but they realize that they have to take a haircut at the end of the day, or have their debt compromised, then a Section 155 compromise is the way to go. But one of the first things we do when we go into a company and start investigating its affairs right from the beginning is to assess whether the company needs to enter into a compromise with creditors, whether it needs to go into business rescue, in the worst case scenario, whether it is simply needs to be liquidated, or whether it's business as usual. And that's the first thing that we need to get right when we assess the company from the start.
Now, when we speak about creditors, and you spoke about aggressive creditors, what should one worry about more? Normal creditors, landlords, banks? And how do you talk to the various categories of creditors, and in particular with the banks?
Well, most creditors are reasonable. Sorry, Maurice, I'll let you talk shortly. I apologize. Most creditors are reasonable and understanding. In this kind of, everybody realizes it's a disaster of enormous proportions, but every creditor is sort of relying on their creditors to hopefully be lenient on them, and then they can be lenient on their debtors. We were dealing with a matter the other day where the guy has numerous companies and numerous landlords that he needs to deal with, and the landlords all said to him, if the government or the banks give the landlords relief, then they will be able to pass that relief on to him as a tenant. But if the banks are not in a position to give relief, then they can't pass it on to him, and then in that case they're going to have to try and recover their debt.
What I was going to say is business rescue in these circumstances is really unnecessary. You only would put the company into business rescue if there's an unreasonable creditor, and there really ought not be unreasonable creditors. So the ecosystem is really designed to avoid a business rescue, for us to try and instill trust between the debtor and creditor, because generally it's a tough relationship, and there's generally no trust. So if we come in with a mediator, we instill that trust, and then we can negotiate the terms on behalf of both the debtor and the creditor.
And you mentioned that this is a pro bono initiative, but are there any costs that businesses would incur into once they recover?
That's a very good question. So the way pro bono works is there has to be a means test. So the means test is, do you qualify for pro bono and the various guidelines set by the Legal Practice Council. And the idea is that pro bono only kicks in when the business cannot afford to pay. So the pro bono element will always be there if fees become an issue. So in other words, if fees are an issue to the successful implementation of the plan, there will be no fees. And Engage will not charge, IQ will not charge, there won't be any fees. But if it's a scenario where you go into business rescue, but you're sitting on reserves, or you will have money, you've got a massive book, and it's just a case of going in and out for 3 months, you won't pass the means test and you won't qualify for pro bono in those circumstances.
Okay. And is there any particular advice for SMEs versus larger companies? Is there any difference? What should people consider?
I think the larger companies, they generally are higher up on the ladder and they closer to the bank. So I think that they have more flexibility in trying to make a plan. Government has specifically targeted the SMEs with the debt relief funds and the like. So when it comes to SMEs, come to us if there is a problem. If there's a problem creditor, we'll deal with that problem creditor. But it's really the SMEs that Engage business being with, and then IQ Business, they deal with the blue chips. So if there are any blue chips that encounter any problems, then what happens is there's a team of 700 consultants at IQ Business who'll go in, see how they can fix the problem, and work together with Engaged and the business rescue practitioners in putting a plan together.
So tell us more about the government's initiatives. How do they actually work? There has been a lot of confusion as to who indeed qualifies for them. There is some sector relief, for example, for the tourism industry, and there are different criteria. Where does one go for correct information? And can you give us an overview?
Yes, so there's been a lot of fake news. The PowerPoint presentations doing their rounds, which are false, particularly when it comes to the BE requirements. A fiction was going around that you required 51%. Look, the funds are again there for the SMEs. If your turnover is under 50 million, you qualify. You've got to be registered with SARS. You have your UIF has to be up to date. And then what they'll do is they'll help you with debt relief. They'll help you with finance. There are also provisions where they're going to be amending the fiscal codes to provide relief, let's say, with PAYE. So those measures are being implemented, and they're being implemented every day. In fact, we've received regulations that I haven't been able to go through, again, industry specific. That's the regulations that has come out that I haven't looked at carefully relate to retail landlords and tenant relationships.
And what should businesses look out for in the next few months?
A vaccine.
Risks on the horizon that people should really be careful with?
I personally believe that businesses at the moment ought to not be preparing for a 3-week shutdown. The view I've taken is that the shutdown may very well last for several months. And the reason I've formulated that view is, let's say in 3 weeks, there are only 50 cases. Does that mean the shutdown is going to end? I doubt it very much. So we're in for the long haul. Businesses must prepare, work aggressively on your cash flows, see if there are any holes, and bring those cash flows to the Cobra ecosystem and let's work through it with your creditors. I think the best advice is to turn to us as soon as possible.
And how do we get hold of you? Where do we find the Cobra ecosystem? How do we apply?
Okay, so the website is www.cobra.org.za. We have daily webinars at 10 o'clock each day. That'll give you an opportunity to ask our panel of experts any questions that are specific to your business. What we can also do is we can set up a private Zoom meeting with your team to go through the issues, to work out a plan. But the starting point would be to go to the website. It's cobra.org.za.
Thanks very much. Ian, is there anything you'd like to add?
Nothing from my side, Pam. Thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity.
So thanks for making yourselves available. We will most certainly keep informing our members and other Italian companies and South African companies about this great initiative. Thanks very much, Ian Fleming and Maurice Crespi. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.